Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the AIIA's online briefing series. And today we have the Global Tech series brought to us by Austrade, and delighted to have you here today as well. We have a very esteemed group of speakers that you'll hear from today, and we're absolutely delighted to be able to present this for you. And it'll be a monthly occurrence, and we'll be dealing with a different economy each session. My job today is really to just make sure that housekeeping has been addressed so that you get a great experience, and then I'll hand over. I would like to acknowledge all the custodians of all the lands the original custodians of all the lands we meet on today, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. To have a great experience today, given the number of the speakers we have. You, as participants, will have the opportunity to provide questions through the Q&A area. So please use that for your questions this afternoon. There'll also be a Slido opportunity as well. So watch for the messages coming up there as well. Other than that, I'm going to hand over to David Camerlengo from Austrade to now host proceedings, and I look forward to you having a fantastic experience this afternoon. David, over to you.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks everybody for joining this session. I probably just want to provide a little bit of background as to where this came about. So Austrade has been doing quite a bit of work in the tech sector, working with a number of Australian tech companies and tech clients, and obviously foreign tech companies on their engagement here in Australia. And we work with them across a variety of different markets. However, what we're hoping to do through this series is really start to shine a light on some of those markets that are probably a little bit less familiar to Australian tech companies than others. So we're quite pleased to be able to partner with AIIA on this particular series, starting here today with Vietnam. I just also want to mention that this is a series. This is the first in a series of 10 webinars that will go over the course of the year. So for the next 10 months, starting today, we'll be delivering a session similar to this on different markets, highlighting a different market. And it's really not just about the webinar today and the attendees today, but it's actually about starting to develop some content that we can then start to share through our various channels. So this webinar will be recorded, it will be hosted online. Some of the insights and the presentations can be shared and can be really used over the course of the year and ongoing for Australian tech companies to be able to access and understand the opportunities for them in those markets. So I'll leave it at that. Big thanks to AIIA for their support. And also just want to say Happy International Women's Day also. Got some incredibly talented women participants that are actually on this call and as part of our team, and look forward to hearing them and playing our role in kind of supporting them going forward. With that, I'm going to hand over to our Austrade Trade Commissioner, who's based in Vietnam out of Hanoi, Shannon Lee, to provide some opening remarks. Shannon, over to you.
Thank you, David, and thanks very much to Ron and the AIIA for bringing us all together today for this session. We're pleased to work with you, and we're also pleased to support and be part of a broader team assisting Australia's tech industry in their market entry efforts into Vietnam. As David mentioned, I'm Shannon Lee, Australia's Trade Commissioner to Vietnam, based in Hanoi, and we have a fantastic lineup of speakers and panelists here today. So we hope you enjoyed today's presentation, but most importantly, we hope you learn a lot about the Vietnam market. As we're joined by our expert presenters and panelists, I'll keep my comments brief on the market, but just to say before we go to the panel that Vietnam most certainly should be on your radar as a market of interest, particularly if you're looking for growth within the ASEAN region. In the work that Nyung and I do on a daily basis, we see the effects of digitalisation within the economy and the trends towards it. And there's a unique nexus here between government, industry and consumers all heading in the one direction, a positive direction towards liberalisation when it comes to tech. So we certainly encourage you to look at the market more deeply following this session. On that note, I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Can Van Look. Dr. Look is Chief Economist of the Bank for Investment and Development of Vietnam, BIDV, and is President of BIDV's Training and Research Institute. He is also a member of Vietnam's Fiscal and Monetary Policy Advisory Council. Dr. Look is Vietnam's preeminent thought leader in economics, banking and finance, and we're incredibly fortunate to have his insights today. Dr. Look will open our session today with an overview of Vietnam's economy and digital trends. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Look.
Okay, thank you very much, Shane. Thank you all for inviting me to speak today. Okay, can you allow me to share my screen, please? Okay, so thank you again, Austrade and AIIA for inviting me to talk today. So you see, within 10 minutes, I will give you two pictures. The first picture is about Vietnam's economy in the past, let's say, 5 years and the next 5 years. The second picture will be about digital transformation of Vietnam, also, you know, in the past 5 years and the plan for the coming future. And of course, I will also give you some kind of, so what should be the opportunities and challenges facing Vietnam digital transformation, and of course, some implication for the foreign investors. Okay, so, you know, regarding the first picture about Vietnam's economy, maybe, you know, you may be surprised that we have been reforming our economy in the past 35 years. And fortunately, you know, no crisis, okay, no recession, very well performing. GDP growth in the past 35 years has been about 6.2%, okay? But in the past, 2 years, given the COVID-19, in 2020, we grew at about 2.9%, and last year, 2.6%. But we are hoping to recover very quickly this year with the growth rate of about 6.5%. In that context, Vietnam's income per capita also has been increasing very rapidly. Okay, we were one of the very poor economies in 1990, but now this is GDP per capita of the country is about more than 4,000 US dollars. That's the current price with our adjusted GDP. In the past, let's say 5 years, Vietnam's economy has been doing quite okay, as I talked to you briefly some time ago. For example, before the COVID-19, it was growing at about 6% per annum, and inflation about 3%. Okay. Last year, of course, was not a very good year for the global economy in general, and also for Vietnam in particular. So for this year, we are hoping that we would recover more quickly and grow at more than 6%. But inflation is going up, of course, globally and also in Vietnam. It will be roughly about 4% this year. Okay, we also have got very good key drivers for our economic growth. Number one is strong performance in export. Number two, investment, including domestic and also FDI investment. Okay, and number three, we also have tried to maintain quite stable exchange rate and also lowering the rate of interest to support businesses and households. Here is our key trading partners last year. Okay, you could see that US, China, Japan, Korea, ASEAN. Australia has been in the top 50. Okay, in trading partnership with Vietnam, accounting for about, let's say, 2% of our total imports value and 1% of our total export value. So, meaning what? We can do much more. Okay, we are aiming to have a, let's say, $15 trade value between the two economies by 2025, and maybe even higher. Investment in Vietnam has been, quite good, quite well performing. Every year we have the FDI grow about 7 to 10%. Except for the past 2 years, it has been slowed down, but very stable. Anyway, we still not get much benefit from the investment shift from China and other economies, but we hope that in the coming future, with various factors, especially the very stable politics environment and also improved investment climate, Vietnam should be a better destination for attracting more FDI in the coming future. How about the top FDI investors into Vietnam? Okay, you may see Korea, Singapore, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China too. Australia has been again in the top 15 with about $2 billion, all right, and more than 500 projects investment into Vietnam so far. Again, we can do much more. A lot of room for FDI from Australia here. Okay, and you see how about our plan for the coming future? Vietnam actually has made a very clear plan about economic growth in the next 5 years and also 10 years, 6 to 7% growth, and we try to become an upper middle income economy by 2030. You may look at the digital economy plan of Vietnam too. So we are trying to have a digital economy accounting for about 20% of GDP by 2025 and 30%, by 2030. Okay. Now the second picture about digital transformation of Vietnam. Okay. I will go quite fast over here. So see, first one, we need to come to some kind of agreement on what should be, digital economy by definition. So in Vietnam now, see, we are trying to look at the so-called narrow definition, which digital economy should include the ICT sector and, ICT and digital platform-based products and services. Okay, in the future, with our, better stats, and then we can look at the broad meaning of digital economy. Okay, so in the past 6 years, Vietnam has been, I think, going quite fast in terms of legal framework improvement. A lot of guidelines, direction from the party, from the government, and also different strategies. But I would like to draw your attention, to the decision by the Prime Minister. 2 years ago. The decision 749. Okay, setting some kind of guideline and orientation for Vietnam in developing digital economy by 2030, with 8 priority sectors, given some kind of priority for going faster in terms of digitalization. Okay, and this year Vietnam will be issuing the updated digital economy strategy. I hope it will be coming very soon. Okay, also, digital infrastructure development also doing quite okay. Okay, we have a launch of 5G, and we rank number 2 and 3, among ASEAN economies in terms of, internet penetration, mobile penetration, and of course, innovation of Vietnam also has been improving quite well. All right, this is the Global Innovation Index ranking. Last year, we were ranking number 44 out of 141 economies in the sample. We are similar to Thailand in this aspect. Okay, digital workforce and skills also has been improving. We have got the so-called Human Capital Index, ranking number 48, and of course, we also have been trying to improve the global digital readiness. Okay, we are ranking number 4 in ASEAN and trying to be number 3 or number 2 in the coming future. All right, this is digital readiness index, as I just talked to you. Of course, we also have got other sectors which are booming. E-commerce, all right, doing very well in Vietnam, and also we see digital as the internet economy of Vietnam also has been growing very fast, around $14 billion 2 years ago, and the Ben and company study hope that Vietnam would be growing at about 29%. Okay, the highest, the highest growth rate among ASEAN member states in the next 5 years. Okay, and next I would like to talk to you about the plan for Vietnam's digital transformation in the next 5 years and also 10 years. So this is the plan cited by the PM 2 years ago. So we are trying to have the digital economy accounting for about 25% of GDP by 2025 and 30% by 2030. Okay, and also trying to be top 30 countries in various indices. Okay, so based upon that scenario, we have run 3 scenarios for Vietnam digital transformation by 2030. Okay, so let me show you the summary over here. Okay, so we have designed 3 scenarios, and we are trying to go for the second scenario. Okay, whereby if we can do a good job in digital transformation, and then the contribution of the digital economy to GDP growth, could be about 0.63 to 0.85 percentage point per annum. Okay, per annum from now until 2030. Okay, anyway, we are facing 6 main challenges. Number 1 should be awareness. Of course, resistance to change also has been the case for many developing economies. Institutions, especially the legal framework, seem to be a little bit behind, so we need to be catching up. Okay, and then digital infrastructure and digital skills for the people, and also even for the talents. Innovation ecosystem also need to improve, and of course, cybersecurity also one of the key concerns now and in the coming future. And that's why I see in our plan, the Vietnamese government has worked out 6 main solutions. Okay, legal framework need to be improved, and of course, more innovation ecosystem enhancement, and then training and research. Okay, and also more improvement for cybersecurity, and of course, we also setting up some national innovation centers, which have been doing okay initially. Of course, we also need to develop international cooperation, in which Australia should be playing a very key role in this part. Okay, finally, so what should be the implication for foreign investors? I think a lot. Okay, we should be continue to achieve high growth economic rate, and also rising middle class, and we have about 100 million people market size. Okay, some sectors which are very potential for growth, including financial, fintech, ICT, health and pharmaceutical, infrastructure, retail, education, and including agribusiness. Okay. And of course, we also have got some more opportunities in M&A, SOE, divestment, and restructuring. Of course, as I talked to you before, digital transformation has been a key priority, in many our national strategies agenda. Okay, and the way we still have got some challenges, as I talked to you before. So, in summary, I can say digital transformation in Vietnam has been going quite fast. It has posed, both opportunities and challenges. But I do think that there are more opportunities than challenges. Okay, having said that, I would like to stop my presentation here and look forward to the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Look. As always, we appreciate your generosity and your time, and learn a great deal from your insights. So thank you. I would now like to pass to my colleague, Nhung Chang, who's Business Development Manager here in Hanoi, and is also our tech lead in Vietnam. Nhung has experience in the tech sector previously to Austrade, and through her extensive networks and industry knowledge has helped a number of Australian companies enter the market here over the last few years. So we look forward to your presentation. Over to you, Nhung.
Thank you very much, Shannon. And as usual, it's a great valuable time listening to you, Dr. Lực. Thank you for your insights. So what's next? Why Vietnam and why now? With this section, I'm going to give you a few key takeaways about Vietnam: market size, end users, potential customers that you can use right away in your business plan in 2022. Okay, so first of all, for market size, the data points that I'm using here is revenue potential of the internet economy in Vietnam, which in this case consists of 5 verticals: e-commerce, online transport and food delivery, online travel, online media, and digital financial services. This is a data point that Dr. Lực has talked about, but I think it's important to still re-emphasize because it's an indicator of the potential market size you are trying to target. You could see that Vietnam's digital economy is forecast to grow at the fastest rate in the region, at 40% per annum. And this rate of growth has been materialized in the last 2 consecutive years. And in particular, a strong growth is forecast in digital financial services, as evident in the graph on the right-hand side. Next. So if you look at the growth potential, I would say that it is tremendous because of the current low base of service penetration in Vietnam. Look at Fintech, for example. Only 30% of the Vietnamese population now have a bank account. Credit card penetration is only 4%. E-commerce revenue, even with all its growth in the past few years, represents still only 5% of total retail sales. And finally, for total insurance penetration rate by gross written premium in Vietnam, it was 1.7% 6 years ago, now rising to almost 4% of GDP. But still, this is very much lower than average global and regional data. So the question is, with all this growth potential, what will be driving this growth in the next few years? Next. We believe there are 2 main drivers to this growth. Number 1 would be consumer digital readiness. And second is the increasing spending power, as evident by the Vietnam sustained economic growth that Dr. Lực has shown in one of his slides previously. If you look at the number of internet users in Vietnam, you will see that it was only 44 million 6 years ago, but it rose to almost 70 million just last year. And another particular interesting fact about Vietnam is Gen Z population. And these are the consumers who were born after 1997. And you know, they currently make up the majority of the users on our app on TikTok. We expect that in the next few years, Gen Z will have a tremendous influence in the consumer market in Vietnam and also in the taking up of new technology in Vietnam. And on the right-hand side, this is data that I pulled to show you the increase in engagement of Vietnamese with mobile banking apps. And this is an indicator of the rise in engagement of Vietnam with smartphone apps in general. COVID has definitely caused challenges to Vietnam, but at the same time, we believe that it has been a real catalyst for digital services growth. Some recent interesting data points here is McKinsey conducted a survey last year, and it shows that 82% of Vietnamese nowadays use digital banking at least once a month. And the recent data on digital payment released by the Bank of Vietnam also show that there has been spectacular growth in both volume and value of payment transactions in the last year alone. And e-commerce sales is expected to double every year in the next 5 years. So if you look at bringing your solutions and service to Vietnam, this will be your end users who are using your service. So what about your potential customers? If you come to Vietnam, one of your biggest questions would be, who are the customers that I could target? And what is their openness towards taking up of new technology? I would say that in the last 5 years, we have seen increasingly openness of banks and companies in Vietnam to take up and test new technologies. This graph, you will see that Vietnamese banks, for example, are still at the very beginning of developing their digital capabilities. But this is changing fast as banks and companies now are starting to modernize their own digital infrastructure and innovate on their front-end products and services. These are 5 areas of recent technology investment for banks in Vietnam that I wanted to just show as an example. You will see that big data and artificial intelligence is at early stage, but it's increasingly get attention from banks. And then we also have open banking, cloud computing, and blockchain being an emerging area, but we have been seeing increasing growth. If you look at a few recent examples in Vietnam, on the left-hand side, you will see a mobile app named Timo. Timo is the first digital-only bank in Vietnam, launched a few years ago. And it is an online bank that provide a full suite of services, including banking account and credit card services. And it is targeting the young population in Vietnam. And on the right-hand side is an image of a live bank station in Vietnam that operate 24 hours, 7 days. If you want to open a bank account in Vietnam, you no longer have to visit a branch and meet a physical person. You could just visit such a station in Vietnam and could open a new bank account using your fingerprint. And you could also talk to a customer service officer on the phone. Okay, so if you were to build your business in Vietnam, will you have the right talent to implement your business plan? I'm confident the answer is yes, and Vietnam is growing its tech talent. And with this, I refer to 2 pools of talent. Number 1 are the Vietnamese developers who are young, intelligent, and eager to learn. And second is an influx of Vietnamese who are educated overseas or having working experience overseas and are returning to Vietnam, bringing with them world-class business skills and global ambitions. And no surprise, in the last 12 months alone, Vietnam has seen 3 new unicorns. Axie Infinity is a blockchain-based digital gaming company, and VNPay and Momo are both 2 digital payments company. National Australian Bank recently set up its Tech Innovation Center in Vietnam, which is another sign of the growing human resource talent in Vietnam. Okay, last but not least is the regulatory environment in Vietnam. I will not go into too much detail here. Dr. Luc has talked about it. What is fortunate about Vietnam is that we enjoy a pretty supportive regulator. The Vietnamese government is very proactive in leading the country towards faster progress in digital transformation. And you could see that the government issued a national program a few years ago, and different industries in Vietnam are following suit with their own agenda. So all these factors together point to a fertile ground in Vietnam for Australian tech companies to consider as a market for technology digital services consumption. And now, before I end the presentation, I will just go through quickly 5 areas of business opportunities for you to consider. Next. The first opportunity lies in data analytics and database management. Data management and security is a top concern for many companies in Vietnam, and especially from a fintech perspective, is banks. And local companies are still at a very early stage of exploring different technologies. So any solutions in data analytics and insights will be welcomed with strong enthusiasm in Vietnam. Risk and compliance, you could see that a natural trend of cybersecurity. Increasing digital transformation means increasing external digital threat, and as a result, cybersecurity is another field that is attracting foreign companies. The competition is fierce. You will see that in each slide, I put down a few companies that are already tackling the solutions in Vietnam. Front-end products and services, eKYC, buy now, pay later, a trend started in Australia with Afterpay, now pouring over to Vietnam. So most of the corporates in Vietnam are in a race to innovate with their front-end products and services. So solutions in different areas are welcomed. For example, in lending, financial inclusion, and payments. Cloud computing is a trend that we have seen growing strongly in Vietnam. 2 foreign companies recently have M&A in Vietnam. An example is Thought Machine from the UK and Mambu from Germany. So these are 2 of the examples of cloud computing infrastructure companies who recently gained their foothold in the Vietnamese market. And finally, this is more of a fintech lens. We also see opportunities in Insurtech, wealth management, and neobank. So I hope that this has given you a brief summary of the opportunities where they lie, and I look forward to continue to touch base with you after the webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nhung. That was very comprehensive, and we're really lucky to have Nhung on our team and leading market entry efforts for the tech industry here in Vietnam. As mentioned in the opening, if Nhung and I can assist any companies looking to enter Vietnam, we look forward to doing so and hearing from you. Before we move to our panel, I just wanted to remind all guests today that we do have Slido operating for questions. So it's #GlobalTech, as you can just see there in the chat box. So feel free to enter your questions during the panel discussion, and we'll get to them straight afterwards. So on that note, I'm pleased to be joined by our panel. And today we're joined by Martin Schlatter, Chief Operating Officer of Salt Group, Ms. Nguyen Thi Tu Zhang, Vice Chairwoman and General Secretary of the Vietnam Software and IT Services of Vanasa, and Binh Pham, Managing Director, BCA Partners. Martin has been in the information technology industry for 25 years, and his experience includes roles in technical infrastructure security, product and business development, solution development, and executive business management. As COO, Martin is accountable for executing the existing business strategy and formulating further strategic goals to support Salt Group's ambitions. Those ambitions are to become a truly global provider of high assurance identity, user and transaction authentication solutions. Prior to founding BCA Partners, Mr. Bin served as CEO at Vietnam International Securities. With over 16 years of combined experience in banking, finance and investment, Bin has extensive relationships in various sectors in Vietnam, including tech and fintech, banking and investment advisory, as well as relationships in the international markets. Ms. Sang Nguyen is the Vice Chairwoman of the Vietnam Software and IT Services, VNASA. VNASA is a national association in Vietnam comprising more than 270 members, most of whom are leading software firms operating nationwide. So thank you very much to our panelists for joining today. I think we'll kick off with you, Martin, if you don't mind. We'd be very interested to hear about Salt Group's experience in Vietnam and also your professional experience in working across Asia and in Vietnam itself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Shannon. Our experience in Asia started back in 2010 with a single customer in Vietnam. And I'm delighted to say it's still a customer of ours today. So it's 12 years on and still going strong. And I think it's fair to say it's developed into more than a typical supplier-customer relationship. It's very much a collaboration and a partnership. And I think that's the kind of relationships we want to build at Salt Group. It's probably indicative of the type of business we have. We're not a highly transactional business. We don't sell specifically to the mass market, although our solutions are very much used by mass market consumers, like our mobile authentication software, which is used by thousands and thousands of retail banking customers worldwide. But we serve the organizations that provide services to these mass markets. And so our intent is to get a really deep understanding of the business that our customers have, of the challenges that they face, and then build solutions for them that help them address that market space and stay competitive. So for us operating in the Asia Pacific market, it's encouraging to see that customers there want that kind of interaction. They want that level of engagement from a supplier to get to the point where you understand their business. And we also learn a lot from customers in the Asia Pacific market. We take a lot of input from their requirements. And there's a lot of joint innovation that happens. So, if something truly innovative gets taken up in a market as dynamic as Vietnam and Asia Pac is, then it's something that we can turn into the product portfolio that we provide into the greater market space. So it's a really good advantage of working in the Asia Pacific market where it's so dynamic. Prior to Salt Group, I ran the information security business for a large systems integrator across APAC. Slightly different in terms of its approach, a little bit more transactional in terms of the products that it sold. But I think the experience and the learnings were equal in both different approaches. I think my learning from dealing in Asia Pacific, it's very much a trust-based environment. The cornerstone to longevity in the market there is building trust with your customers, and that's both in terms of doing what you say you're going to do, which I think is mandatory, but also being there when things don't go well and when it's tough and when there are challenges. I think your ability to support from wherever you are is key. So I think it's one of the big tenets for me in terms of operating in that market is you need to be there when the support's required and when there are issues, and that's when you really earn your money. Vietnam's vibrant, it's fast-paced, it's highly competitive. There are large consumer segments. Consumers are not averse to change. If there is not value, they'll move on and they'll go somewhere else. So I think operating in that market, you need to be innovative and adaptive continuously, and you need to make decisions quickly. So I think being competitive in the Asia Pac market means having a competitive offering, but also changing and adapting as the market changes.
Terrific, Martin. Thank you. And I think your point is well made on building trust, and the fact that Salt Group's been here for over a decade. When we speak to exporters, the most important thing I think here is building trust, longevity, and also understanding and investing the time in your business partner. So it's a point well made. And I should say also that we we're pleased to work with Salt Group. So it's an example of where Austrade can also work with and assist companies both in market entry but after market entry as well. So thanks very much, Martin, for your insights. Ben, if you don't mind, we'll ask you to share your experience working with foreign tech companies on their market entry in Vietnam.
Yeah, okay, sure. So thank you for your question. Actually, like the tech industry is very big industry with many subsectors. So with my background in strategy and M&A, merger and acquisition, so I have been company and investor to enter into Vietnam. I would like to share my own experience working with some of the company within the space, especially those from Southeast Asia, China and India, right? So most of the company that I work with in the past, right, they're very excited about the potential market in Vietnam. Everyone already talk about how attractive the market. Mr. Luc Nhung as well, right? And the company that I work with in very sector in the tech industry, like the learning management system, the KPI, software management, cybersecurity, TechFin platform operator for Fintech company. So very diverse company. However, in order to enter the market and be successful, is very different story. So common issue that I observe from the company that I work with is like when they see the market potential, but then they didn't dedicate like enough resource for the expansion strategy. It's just like you go and touch the water and see what's going on and then go back and think, but we don't move very aggressively into the market, right? And the second thing is like when they approach the Vietnam market with a very different system of law and regulation, especially for those specific sector and new sector like tech and fintech in Vietnam, where we still establish the sandbox. Everything is very new, so we need to compete with all those local companies. So there's something like the gray area that foreign company they hesitated and they don't move very aggressively. Sometimes due to like language barrier as well, you need to read a lot of like local degree or similar thing. And thirdly would be the local market insight. Everything is very different from market to market. Like I work with a company that provides system for logistic management in Vietnam, right? They are very big provider like in the world, but then when they come to Vietnam, it's totally different how the local distribution logistic company manage their driver, manage their warehouse. So they need to change everything like on the procedure. And finally, the very different working culture and approach to business. Like in Vietnam, everything mostly based on relationship. So if you are so straightforward, like the way we work with like Western company, because we have the luck that we study overseas and working for foreign companies, so somehow we know that the huge difference in here. So that's how like foreign company, especially tech company, come to Vietnam. They have some difficulty assess the market and be successful here. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Ben. Very helpful insights, and we appreciate it. I'll now go to Ms. Zhang. Zhang, can you tell us about Vanessa and the collaboration to date that you've had with foreign tech companies?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So, yeah, as you may know, that Vanessa is a Vietnam Software and IT Services Association. And in Vietnam, we are the only national association which have corporate members, which is working on software, IT services, digital content, and digital transformation. At the moment, now we have around 505 member companies as number in December 2021. And our member companies are almost the biggest IT corporations in Vietnam are our members. And of course, 90% of our members are small and medium companies. And At the moment, our member company takes about 70% of IT revenue of the industry, and we also represent about 70% of the human resource. So for Vinasa, yeah, as you may also have information from Mr. Luke's presentation, in Vietnam now, yeah, there are some trending and movement and digital content, smart city, new technologies are the areas that you have a huge opportunities. So as an association with the role of connecting the business together, we organize a lot of activities, and yeah, we focus on digital transformation. We focus on all the new tech with the high tech, with the AI, blockchain, metaverse, and now the metaverse and Web 3.0. Yeah, we every year we have quite a number of activities to support, to connect or facilitate all the meetings between Vietnamese company and yeah, foreign companies who come to Vietnam and looking for partners. We have several programs. So besides all the conference or yeah, business matching or exhibition, we also have the virtual business mission overseas, and this June we will organize one in cooperation with AIIA on yeah, business cooperation in IT field between Vietnamese company and Australia company. Yeah, every year we also receive a lot of requests from foreign companies to who are looking for corporate partner in Vietnam. So we also choose top 10 IT companies in ICT in 15 areas to recommend or to introduce and connect to the company who have a request on cooperation with Vietnamese companies. So yeah, in short, can say that we are very much like a bridge to connect yeah, the foreign or especially the yeah, requests from all the countries to have cooperation with Vietnamese company in IT field. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Sang. And obviously through Austrade, Nhung and myself, we can connect companies through to you, Ms. Sang. But if you have a website or any other way that companies can contact you direct, because I'm sure there'd be many who would be interested in the events that you spoke of.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, please feel free to put it in the chat box. But really appreciate your insights. Thank you. Martin, just going back to you, could you tell us a bit more about Salt Group's technology products, innovation and solutions, and your plan in Vietnam? I think it would help those on the line understand the sort of companies that are succeeding here.
Yeah, sure. So in short, we provide high assurance user authentication and digital transaction signing solutions predominantly to financial institutions, banks, and government. So, you know, just think of anywhere where a digital transaction needs to be verified and secured. Land registration, securities exchanges, and the typical banking transactions, we've got solutions in that space. We build our own back-end authentication platform, and that would then integrate with the business application of choice. Think of a core banking app. We do the integration to those core banking applications, and we also build the front-end user face. So, you know, whether it's an iOS or Android mobile authentication app that consumers would use to transact, we build that component. So we manage the transaction from initiation, I guess, through to execution on the back-end infrastructure. We do this for governments and banks in Australia, obviously, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Vietnam, of course. So we've got a breadth of customers, and that's really our core and our focus for the technologies we have. In terms of expansion over the next 3 years, we'll continue definitely to focus on the B2B payments market. That's becoming increasingly more regulated, especially in Asia, and Vietnam's a great example, obviously, of the government's banking strategy and the decisions they're releasing around how to influence that banking strategy. So that's certainly a core focus for us in keeping pace with regulation in that space and how we build that into our platform. And we're also, in parallel with that, focused very much on the cashless and cardless future. You know, that's obviously coming thick and fast, and the digital multi-factor authentication and verification component to that, which is going to be really critical. So that sort of will be our core focus, at least for innovation in the next couple of years.
Terrific, thanks, Martin. We have one more question before we head to our Q&A. So, Ben, I'd just be interested, Mr. Ben, in any key tips that you would offer Australian tech companies in attempting to enter Vietnam.
Okay, sure. So obviously, for tech company, when they enter into Vietnam, they have some certain disadvantage compared to like local companies. So firstly, like in terms of law and regulation, I believe that even though Vietnam, we have a set up very clear law and regulation, but there's still some gray area in many local law. So I believe that that's the area that the Vietnamese company have like some kind of advantage because of the low degree of law enforcement in Vietnam. Right? So my tip for like foreign tech company, when you enter into the market, then make sure that you hire the right local law firm that you can work with, so that make sure that everything is in compliance. The second thing, like for the advantage of the foreign company when they work in Vietnam, the working culture, right? And that's how like we based on a lot of relationships. So that's how if you can hire some local like agency can do some headers work for you. For example, like last time I worked in the banking industry, right? So my bank in Singapore, they try to apply for the local license 100% subsidiary in Vietnam, and they try to do it themselves. Then also another bank like UOB in Singapore, they hire local agency, stay in Hanoi, working like every day with the State Bank of Vietnam. I mean, like in touch with the local authorities and central government very often. Then things will move very fast, right? So that's another thing. And next will be like the human resource. Like problem in Vietnam is like you are lack of skilled worker with sufficient language skill and discipline, right? So my advice would be like take advantage of those like overseas Vietnamese students who they study overseas and then they come back to Vietnam. So they are mix up the working culture between foreign company and they know the local market and they have the local contact like the network. So that will help solve a lot of problems. I know that company like Ninja Van, Grab, or even Techcombank, right? They own hire local Vietnamese talent. I mean, who study overseas or like VietQ, we call them, who can speak the language. Then, lastly, like also related the human resource, like in Vietnam, the biggest problem is to have like sufficient source of manpower and human resource for the company when you set up your business here in Vietnam. So even though the cost is lower compared to some other country, but then the productivity also will be lower as well. So the training will be very important. And like the young Vietnamese, they respect like learning opportunity, the culture exchange a lot. So when foreign company come to Vietnam, you can provide those opportunity like the international exposure, especially when we have the headquarters back in the mother country, right? So international exposure or mobility programs, some rotation program, so that let the employee come back to the headquarters like a few months in a year, for example, for training, and that will help attract talent a lot in Vietnam market. So of course, that the local inside, the consumer behavior and those things that I mentioned before, right? We need to be very ready to change our product and services and to adapt to the local practice. Yeah.
And we really at that, and your point on the service providers is very important. So often when there are decree changes, often they come out in Vietnamese first, and it's important that when you're navigating the market, you both have a good partner, but also the service providers that can help you through. We have 3 questions and only a couple of minutes left, so we'll try to get through them. I'll answer the last one very quickly, which is what is the best way for Australian tech companies to find customers or identify or explore opportunities in Vietnam? Working with Austrade is a good way. We help through market entry research. We help through customer introductions in market. We also have the Australian Chamber of Commerce in market, who have well-connected companies here who have succeeded in Vietnam, and they would certainly be happy to assist and hear from you too. And Vanessa as well, industry associations here. Now that planes are up, travel is up and happening very shortly in Vietnam as well. Getting here to the market is probably the most important thing. Face-to-face is always the most important way of building trust. So for those who are able to make it to the market as well, please reach out to us. I think that also covers the resources question, which is around a better understanding of the market. Again, engaging us at Austrade and the industry associations and keeping up to date with virtual events. So I think the last question is, how are Australian technologies and capabilities perceived in Vietnam? And does Australia have an existing reputation or brand for tech in Vietnam? So I might pass to you, Ben, if you don't mind, to close off on that question around Australia's reputation in market.
So actually, like for my business exposure, then mostly until now, I'm in touch with like those technology companies from Southeast Asia, India, and US and China. Quite limited company coming from Australia so far. Yeah. So even though, yeah, from Nhung presentation, right, then the potential of the market is very, very high. And we are very open to new technology, new product and services. So yeah, why not come into Vietnam and explore the market?
Absolutely. And this is part of our efforts. We've run a number of promotional webinars just to raise the awareness of the opportunities here in Vietnam for Australian companies. So yeah, appreciate your insights, Ben. On that note, as the final part of today's session, I'd like to draw your attention to the Fintech in Vietnam Capability Development Program, which is a program that Austrade is developing in collaboration with AIIA Business in March. This program is a comprehensive online training program for Australian business leaders in the Fintech sector who are exploring opportunities to learn more about Vietnam as a market. The program is carefully curated through 3 modules and covers several Fintech segments, including payment, blockchain, and Insurtech. It covers the culture of doing business in Vietnam and a step-by-step guide on how you can enter Vietnam as a Fintech market. So we encourage you to register for that. The first module starts Thursday, 10th of March, so this Thursday. So those that are interested, encourage you to join through that link. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all our presenters today and our panelists for sharing your insights. We greatly appreciate them, and I'm sure all attendees learnt a lot from you today, so thank you. To everyone on the call, please reach out to our team if you want to follow up on any of the information presented here today. And Nhung and I and our panelists, if you reach out, certainly look forward to seeing you in Vietnam. So thank you. I'll now pass back to David.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. I think technically that wraps it up. So appreciate everybody's time. Appreciate all of the panelists again and everybody involved in helping put this together. And keep an eye out for our next session, which is happening in about a month's time, which the focus will be on Singapore. So actually going to keep a Southeast Asia focus for the first part of this year and then start to branch off into other parts of Asia and then in other markets as well. So keep an eye out for Austrade Communications. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day wherever you are.